Okay, peer review process. So, what it is essentially is when you write a paper, you send it to the journal. They give it to like two or three, depends on the journal, or maybe sometimes more people who are your peers in air quotes. So people who are like engaged in research in the same area of study that your paper relates to. Okay, so and they read your paper, they like evaluate it. Like usually journals have some criteria that they ask the reviewers to, just like fill in the blanks, like how well researched it is, how well referenced it is, like are the methods good, etc., etc. So they review your paper and kind of evaluate it on this basis, the reviewers, I mean, obviously. And they kind of give their feedback to the journal, and then the journal may decide like whether your paper deserves to be published. Okay, so in a way, it's kind of a vehicle to spread the responsibility out, kind of alleviate journals' responsibility a little bit, and also, save editors' time a little bit. So you have someone else basically evaluating the paper in the first place, etc., etc. And keep in mind that the reviewers are usually not paid. So this is kind of like, a pro bono type of job, if you wish. So yeah, and they are anonymous, by the way. So the only the editor knows who is doing the review. The author of the paper doesn't. Okay, so this is another feature which supposedly makes the process. And I'm not even sure. I think the reviewers also do not know the author of the paper, so it's kind of blind on both ends. All right, but yeah. So, I mean, supposedly it makes the treatment of research more fair, if you wish, this anonymity, etc. So supposedly it's a good system, all right, and that's why people love it so much. However, in recent times, and I completely agree with them, like a lot of opinions surface that criticize peer review, and I agree with most of them. So, what kind of criticism you may offer? Well, for example, like this anonymity, it basically relieves any responsibility from the reviewer. They might just say, okay, I don't like this paper, it's garbage, just don't publish it, okay? And we know like people are different, their opinions are different. Like if you've ever been at some scientific conference, you can see like even well-respected in air quotes professors, argue against each other, like argue about something. So they have different opinions. They sometimes adhere to different like methods, different theories, even, etc., etc. So the anonymity, by virtue of relieving the reviewer of any responsibility, really, like it may hinder, the progress in science, because, well, your paper may be just not published because the reviewers didn't like it. As I've said, they're not even paid for it, so why would they bother? They have an incentive to just say, no, thank you, don't publish this, all right? So in general, I would say that peer review is great as a gatekeeping device. It's probably decently good in like maintaining the status quo type of science, like the current level, the current standards in science, but it's incredibly bad for any sort of progress. Like if you think about it on a fundamental level, since I'm a philosopher, right? Like what does a peer review means? It means you must have peers, right? Well, imagine you've just discovered like a completely new branch of science, right? You're basically the first guy who ever worked in it, all right? You wouldn't have any peers, right? So who's gonna review your paper? It's just gonna be cancelled, It's not gonna be published because you don't even have any peers in the first place, all right? By definition. So yeah, and there's a lot of negative things like that, because of this, and like it's not an ultimate answer in the first place, even for keeping like the climate of science healthy. Like you may have heard about a lot of scandals with like fraudulent research, essentially it's like scams, Even like well respected people, again in air quotes, are sometimes engaged in this, like Nobel laureates and stuff. So peer review apparently like somehow passed this fraudulent research was published. It passed through peer review, so and all the reproducibility crisis, etc., etc., etc. So you can't even say that peer review is very good at what it's supposed to do. I know I'm kind of contradicting myself, but I mean it's somewhat good, but a lot of crap still seeps through, firstly, and secondly a lot of good stuff doesn't, just by virtue of being too novel, or maybe the reviewers were stupid, etc., etc. And with regards to this, how that process relates to the most plausible explanation of what stars are made of, like I don't think it's related at all. Okay, like I know Robitaille used to publish his papers in Progress in Physics. It's a pretty good journal in the sense that it is actually very open. I'm not even sure if their reviewers are anonymous. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't, but I know they are kind of friendly to novel research. It's one of these kinds of journals. But other than that, I don't have any comments on this. I guess that will be all.